Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And guys, please like and subscribe. If you do like what you're listening to, please inform your friends and family. It's a very imperative time we get back to learning finances and understand how the world really works. Because once we understand how the world really works, we understand that everything is planned out. The game is rigged. I want to thank those who donated to the channel, Cash App, Patreon, also those who purchased the book, Crypto Teacher, NWO book. Much love. Now, guys, we're going to get into, of course, Bitcoin first. Of course, we had the leg down. Bitcoin, the stable coins were above dollar just about all day, so that was an easy indicator, guys. Basically, of course, XRP stayed in this position, easy indicator, and of course, volume went down. So, guys, we knew that the market was going down. Those indicators are going to tell you where the market is going. Now, this week is very, very important, guys, because we know what? The Fed meets. Remember I told you, dates are very, very important. So basically, we have the Fed, the 9th and the 10th, meet. What happens? The stock market is always above. Now, of course, they ran it up Friday. They did a repo of $106 billion. Make sure you're paying attention to repos. Finances is not fun. It's not basketball. It's not football. It's not gossip. Finance is not important to the average person. It's not fun. So the fact is, guys, when you're paying attention to dates, you follow the money. Remember, they did $2.5 trillion last month. They carried us into this month. And then also they have the regular repo operations going on. So they did 106. So that's what spiked the stock market. It's easy, guys. Only thing you have to do is pay attention to the numbers. Pull up, your dates. Go to the Fed repo. You can clearly see what they're going to do in the morning. That's going to give you an easy indicator of how the market is going to look. Now, like I stated, they did $2.5 trillion. I think $1 trillion that they did last month takes us into July. And then that trillion falls off. So basically, you'll start seeing the stock market start taking a leg down in July if they don't do another big repo next month. So that big repo is going to tell us where the market is going. We knew the market was going up. I showed you the repo last month. They did $3 trillion. They clearly, guys, when it comes to money, and the reason why they want to go crypto, because you're not going to be able to see this. We can easily see what they're doing. So as long as we're following the money, we're going to make money right along with them. When everybody said the stock market was going to go down, I told y'all we was going right back up. Now that's all you hear about is, this V-shaped economy, this V-shaped economy. So, of course, Bitcoin is going to have its leg up this week. So, guys, make sure that you're paying attention to the Fed, because remember, the Fed is pumping the stable coins. So, the fact is, the stable coins do what? Pump the market. So, when we start seeing XRP make that move, I don't care if it's a penny, 2 pennies, we know what? We're about to move. So, guys, make sure you're paying attention to the fundamentals, stable coins, XRP, and volume. Now, we also have IBM, Microsoft, guys. We know that they're building this digital economy. Of course, JP Morgan. Guys, I went over this doing the Federal Reserve 2.0 on blockchain. Guys, the biggest secret that Trump has is blockchain and cryptos. He has not made one statement. He has not come out and even spoke about blockchain, has not spoke about cryptos, has not spoke about any other things. All these big companies, corporations, these CEOs that he meet all the time, the executive order that he did, 13772, that allows the fintech banks to take over. He hasn't said anything about this whole time being president, guys. That is the secret weapon towards the end. Remember, guys, these whole 3 years, everybody said, Trump is a shoo-in. Trump is a shoo-in. Now, what happened? The C word comes about. You have the fake Black Lives Matter that George Soros is clearly funding. Everybody thinks Trump is going to lose. Now he's on the losing end now. What is the one trick that they have at the end? Cryptos, blockchain, free digital money. Plain and simple. Get the economy back where it's going. Of course, all the stimulus money ends towards the end of the year. So, of course, if they hit that button for cryptos and digital wallets, he's a shoo-in. If not, then of course Biden wins, and of course Biden wants a woman as vice president, and of course basically we could also go that path. But just to make sure you stay focused on that, he's never said anything about fintech banks. He hasn't said anything about cryptos. Nothing. He did one tweet saying that he wasn't in favor of Libra and cryptos and Bitcoin. But the fact is that he's never ever made a public statement about the blockchain economy like every other prime minister or president, whatever you want to call them. So the fact is, when central banks take over when it comes to the digital economy, you won't have any more small banks. You're just going to have the big banks. Now, of course, it's going to take a little time for that to happen, but these small community banks, they're gone. The majority of people don't use them anyway, but they're definitely gone. These credit unions are gone, even though credit unions have when I worked for the bank, basically, majority of these credit unions are owned by banks anyway. But, guys, the fact is that also we have these fake numbers come out. You had 345,000 businesses open up while the economy is shut down. You had the employment rate go up while everything is shut down. Guys, we know the employment rate is fake anyway. Basically, I did a whole video on that when I first started. They just take the amount of people that are working versus the amount of people getting benefits. The majority of benefits only last for 6 months. So the people who dropped out of the system, they don't even count. So the whole employment rate is a lot anyway. That 3% anyway was a lot anyway. Now also basically Trump is releasing the National Guard. Now guys, we all know, if you follow my channel, all this protests, all this is nothing but a distraction. If you see it on your television, that's what they want you to see. We know protests don't work. Basically in the black community, you had Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. Once they stopped marching and they started going after the money, that's when they were murdered. JFK, once he started, talking about going back to the silver standard, that's when they were murdered. You can march all day, you can protest all day. That's part of the scheme. Remember the black and white scheme. That's all it is. It's divide and conquer. So guys, don't get tied into that. But that's going to run into the video that I'm going to make. All of this is about turning the United States over into China. So the fact is that basically China, of course, is going to take over the Asian countries. You have Taiwan, India. China is going to be the empire. And the fact is that basically United States is going to be up under that Chinese empire. And they're setting it up. So therefore, you definitely want to open your eyes. But that's the last video I'm going to leave you with. Now, guys, don't forget about the books, Crypto Teacher NWO book. Of course, if you're new to cryptos, BitChute, Binance, Coinbase, don't forget about the stocks. Never ever bet against the banks, Cobalt, gaming, your chip stocks. Also, everybody's sitting at home. Don't forget about those stocks. The C word is still selling that. The biotech stocks also, because everybody's sitting at home doing nothing. What do? They drink and they smoke weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and y'all have a wonderful day. Enjoy the video.
Experts are very concerned about some of our vulnerabilities, as we would.
And it's not just missiles. It's not just a Chinese general threatening to launch missiles on Los Angeles.
No, they could start fires in refineries and burn down several large cities. I mean, you can just do that sort of thing with computers now. We're a bit vulnerable. I don't want to be alarmist on it, but what I'm going to tell your listeners, your viewers, is that in looking at their doctrine and looking at their tactics, they're already awarding doctorates to military officers for information warfare skills. Here's the unique thing we found. The president, we were talking earlier in the first segment about the relaxation of exports. Chairman Cox, brilliant report, bipartisan, said we're being penetrated. The high-tech stuff has gone out the door. It's dangerous. Has a whole section on supercomputers. It's really high-tech computers with certain definitions, but it's in the book, and it's Euphemism, supercomputers. 600 of them went to China. By now, probably 800 or so are over there. Why is that significant? Because we found a year before they showed up, inside the Chinese press, they were recruiting students to work, quote, on supercomputers. They knew ahead of the game that they were going to probably get these things. Why? Well, the first book is money in, favors out. It's a bribery case. So this is the consequence.
So they have a president of the United States who they bought, and they know what he's going to deliver to them.
Well, that seems to be the evidence stacking up here. And
let me play devil's advocate.
Sure.
The one evidentiary support for Clinton not being in the bag for the Chinese is that when they threatened Taiwan several years ago, he went along with sending portions of the U.S. Navy as sort of a warning to China. How did that happen?
Well, he was goaded into it by the U.S. Congress, and in Year of the Rat, we have a chapter. And he was forced, his hand was forced by a lot of pressure, probably your grassroots effort, quite very bluntly. I'm sure you had a lot to do with it. And those carriers showed up. Well, it turns out Charlie Tree, when they showed up, took $460,000, literally in a bag now. This is the bag man. Dumps it on the president's personal charity that he liked the most, his legal defense fund. Now, if someone gives $1 to my attorney, that's $1 to me. There's no soft money. There's no hard money. There's no political money. That's directly money to Bill Clinton. The same day, Charlie Tree gives $460,000. He goes to lunch with a White House official who's pled the Fifth and handed him a memo.
Who's that official?
Mark Middleton.
Okay.
At the Palm Restaurant.
Right.
At 1:19, that memo goes into the president at the highest levels of the National Security Council. The memo written by Charlie Tree, which I doubt he really wrote, because I've seen his other writings, it's unintelligible, is a direct...
He used to write menus.
Yes. Yeah, he was actually a fry cook and a greeter in a Chinese restaurant in Little Rock, and it made member triad of the Four Seas gang. What we found, though, is that that memo was very blunt. It said, you'll have trouble in your re-election. I'm paraphrasing. You better pay attention. China has a history of going to war over things like this. This is delivered at the height of the crisis. President Clinton takes that letter very seriously, fires back a letter saying, you're right, those carriers weren't there to threaten you. That answer was bought by $460,000 going to the President's Legal Defense Fund, memo going over, and the President of the United States responding. I'll challenge anyone watching this show, write to the President of the United States and see if they turn around an answer to your letter like that.
Douglas MacArthur said that Formosa, another name, beautiful island for Taiwan, is like a giant aircraft carrier floating in the Pacific. And it really is.
That's correct.
As long as Formosa, Taiwan, is there, anti-communist, independent of the People's Liberation Army, there's a limit on what communist China can do.
That's correct.
They cannot take over the Far East. They cannot be a worldwide threat to the United States. So their number one strategic objective has to be to neutralize Taiwan. And that's what they're trying to do. I believe that that's one of the reasons they're moving into Panama, because if they are in Panama and are in a position to be physically proximate to the United States, if over the next 5 or 10 years they can consolidate economic power and maybe other kinds of power in the Caribbean, it further limits our ability to defend Taiwan and undermines the confidence and independence of the people in Taiwan who are worrying about what the Chinese could do to undermine their economy. Because as you know, Red China doesn't have to invade Taiwan to disrupt Taiwan. If they simply frighten the markets there, they'll demoralize the leaders.
Yes, in fact, Panama, you've probably had many shows on this, is the worst case than you can imagine in one respect. I talked to friends who just went down and did an investigation. Costco, Hutchinson Whampoa has both ends of the canal, big fences up now. But all of a sudden there's rapprochement with Cuba. And you're starting to see they're really clever.
This is Clinton's rapprochement with Cuba. We're now
seeing the PRC book in through Panama.
There are plane flights, there are ball games, and you've got the PRC building a position in Cuba.
Correct. So what you're seeing is a gradual encirclement of
strategic partnership.
Well, that's the worst. It's the worst policy I've ever seen in U.S. history.
Bill Clinton has the chutzpah to suggest that these butchers, these totalitarians, these people who've declared us their main enemy, are our partners. We're sharing information with them.
That's correct.
We're showing them secrets of our training, of our practices.
They were invited into Top Gun. I was a graduate of the senior officer course, didn't fly, flew aggressor out there for a while with my reserve squadron. When you see tactics, people develop tactics by death. I mean,
can't Congress stop this?